Welcome back for another episode of Drummer Daily. My name's Daniel, and I am so happy you could join me again today. So today I've got another question from one of you, and this question comes from Bryan, and he says, I play for two different bands. One is in a genre that I know fairly well. The other is a genre of music that I don't really know well. How do I play in a band in a genre I don't know well professionally? Should I leave that band until I'm a lot more familiar with the genre? That's a great question, Bryan. And this is something, I don't know if this specific topic is something that we have covered here on the podcast before, so I'm always excited when I get questions about things like that. And so I want to tell you that I had a similar experience one time. When I was, it was probably about maybe 12, 13, 14 years ago, sorry, I got a text message in the background. I meant to turn my volume down. At one point when I was probably like 10, 12, 15 years ago, somewhere in there, probably more like 15 years ago, I got hired by a band, and I was in a similar situation as what you're describing. I got hired to be in this band because I was a decent drummer and I knew somebody. I can't remember exactly how I ended up in this band, but they played music that kind of reminds me of like Stone Temple Pilots. That'd be the best way of describing their music. In fact, I found out the singer was pretty obsessed with Stone Temple Pilots, and that was his favorite band, and that's the kind of band he wanted to be in. And so I joined the band. I didn't really like the music that much, but it was early on in my kind of budding full-time musical career. And I was just out of high school, I think. And so I took the gig because it paid well, and was a great way to travel and play drums. And so like I said, I didn't really like the music that much, but I knew that the band kind of liked Stone Temple Pilots, and that was kind of the vibe they were going for. I wasn't super familiar with Stone Temple Pilots either. And so the first thing I did, once I kind of realized that and got into it, was I went and listened to a lot of Stone Temple Pilots. Now, if you're anything like me, I'm a music lover. I love all different kinds of music. Music is very important to me. And so for me, and again, I'm not knocking anybody who likes Stone Temple Pilots. It's just not my kind of music. It's just that their music has never been something that got me excited. I respect what they've done. I respect the success they had, all those things. It's not a lack of respect. It's just you like music, some music better than other kinds of music. And I never really got into it. So I made myself listen to it a lot, but what I did was I put it on when I was doing other things, so I didn't have to focus on it. I just kind of basically learned and immersed myself in it and kind of got it through osmosis. And so I'm not sure, Bryan, what genre this is that's unfamiliar to you, but I would encourage you to do the same thing. Maybe find some other music in that genre and listen to it. And if it's tough for you to listen to for whatever reason, maybe put it on in the background, something like that. So I did that, and that helped me a lot. In fact, what I started doing is keep in mind that unless you're like in like a revival of Santana or something, most likely you are the only drummer in the band, which means that you know drumming better than anybody else in the band. I was acutely aware of the same thing when I was in this band that sounded like Stone Temple Pilots. And what I did was, for better or for worse, I busted out some Stone Temple Pilots drum fills and some patterns in some of the songs. And they loved it. And it's funny is because at first I was like, I really don't care if they know that I'm ripping off Stone Temple Pilots drum fills or patterns or not. It doesn't matter to me either way. I think the guitar player figured it out and he loved it. He actually thought it was a great thing. But I was like, chances are they're not even going to notice, and no one else did because they're not drummers, so they don't notice things as much as other guys might, or as other drummers might. So that's one thing I did. and it helped me a lot. But I keep in mind the other thing is, and again, I'm not sure about the specifics of your situation, but you have to keep in mind, no matter what, if you're in a professional situation, or even if you're playing at like church or something like that, unless you are there and you're only there because there's no one else to do it, which is a thing that happens sometimes. But if you're there for any other reason, aka someone said, I want you to play, and not so-and-so or this other person to play, that you were there because they wanted you to play drums, not the other person, which means in a situation where maybe you're coming into a genre or into a band that you're the new guy or you're new, whatever, they didn't hire you or get you in the band to be like the guy before them, else the guy before them would still be there, or before you would still be there. They hired you because they want you to play drums. Now, if you've listened to my podcast at all, that I'm a big fan of compromise. You do need to compromise and find a middle ground and serve the artist and serve the song and serve the genre to a greater extent. But at the same time, keep in mind, as far as the comfort level goes and feeling secure in what you're doing, they hired you, not somebody else. They don't want you to sound just like somebody else. They want you to sound like you. And so you can feel good about that. You asked, should I leave that band until I'm a lot more familiar with the genre? My advice to you would be no, don't leave that band. My advice to you would be get more familiar with that genre, but stay with that band and learn from it as much as you can and adapt as much as you can. If they are happy or okay with where you're at right now and you're trying your best to make progress in that genre and get a handle on it and do better, I would stick with it. Again, they hired you because they want you in the band. I certainly wouldn't leave a gig that I was okay with. If it's a challenge and you're challenged by it and you're willing to get better, I wouldn't leave a good gig for the unknown as long as you're not unhappy with it. And if the only thing you're unhappy with is your grasp on the genre, well, good news is you can change that. You can affect that. So you just got to take the time, take the effort to do that. Incidentally, a little bit of what I'm talking about in this episode is related to the last episode I did. So this episode that we're listening to right now is episode 216. If you go back to the previous episode, which is episode 215, you can check that out at danielhadaway.com/215. I speak a little bit about being the new guy in a band and trying to adapt musically to that as well. I think some of that might apply to you in your situation too as well, Bryan. So just immerse yourself in the genre and listen to as much of it as you can, and then also be confident in that you're the guy there right now at the gig, and if they wanted somebody else, they would have hired somebody else, but you're there, so feel confident the gig is yours, and don't be afraid to be don't be afraid to be yourself in the midst of a different genre. That's what I love about being a musician is you can't not be yourself, I don't think. I think for me, no matter what genre I play in or perform in or anything like that, there's always a little bit of Daniel Hadaway peeking out of my playing, and it's my job to embrace that in some situations and not fight it, and as long as it's serving the song and serving the artist. And I want to encourage you to do the same when you're drumming. All right, thanks for joining me today. I hope that you are encouraged by this podcast. I hope that you are enjoying it. And I'm always happy when you can join me for Drummer Daily. We'll talk again really soon. Bye for now.